He wrote a love song for me. It made him famous. But when I found the original lyrics, there was another girl's name in them. The first time I heard the song, it wasn't on the radio. It was on the floor of our apartment, the one with peeling paint and a window that never fully closed. Luke sat cross-legged on the rug, his guitar resting against his knee, sunlight spilling across his shoulders. He looked up at me, smiled that half-sleepy smile and said, "Listen to this." He started playing the opening chords slow and uncertain, the kind of melody that feels like it's still finding its way home. Then he sang, and I swear for a second I forgot to breathe when you walked in. I swear the world learned how to start again forever starts here. I laughed when he finished. Not because it was funny, but because it felt like too much to hold in my chest. "You wrote that?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "Yeah," he said shyly. "For you." And just like that, I fell in love again. Not the loud kind with fireworks and chaos, but the quiet kind that hums beneath your skin like a secret. A month later, he played that same song in a bar off South Congress Street, the crowd small but loud, the lights flickering, the air thick with the smell of beer in summer. The moment he started singing, everyone went silent. It was like the world leaned in to listen. I watched from the back, my heart beating in time with his strumming. He looked at me once mid-verse and smiled that look that said, "We did it together," and I believed him after the show. People came up to him, strangers shaking his hand, girls asking for selfies, everyone saying the same thing. "That song, man, that song's gonna make you famous." And they were right. 3 months later, Forever Starts Here was everywhere on TikTok, on the radio, even in coffee shops, where I'd sit pretending not to notice people humming along. I'd hear my name in it between the lines, the way he used to say it softly, like it belonged to the melody itself when the record label called. He said my name first before anything, and we did it. I laughed, cried, kissed him on the spot, and told him I always knew he would make it. But the truth is, I didn't know that fame would make him different. Not at first anyway. I just thought it would make us stronger, like proof that all those nights supporting him playing shows for 10 people driving across Texas with nothing but gas station coffee and bad directions were finally worth it. We had made it together, or at least that's what I thought then, before I found the notebook, before I saw the name, before everything changed. Have you ever believed in someone's dream so deeply that you forgot to protect your own heart? It started slow, like the soft static that creeps into a perfect song. You don't notice it at first. You just think, maybe the speaker's old or the volume's too high, but then it grows louder until you can't unhear it. That's how fame happened to Luke one day. He was still my boyfriend, sitting on the floor, scribbling lyrics on napkins. The next he was Luke Parker, rising country star. His phone buzzing every 10 seconds. His manager calling his name on every side of the room. I tried to keep up. At first, going to every show, every interview, every after party, smiling beside him while everyone talked about Forever Starts Here, like it was a miracle and not just a song written in our living room, but somewhere between the lights and the noise. He started to drift away small things. At first, he stopped asking me to come to rehearsals, said it was too chaotic. He stopped bringing his guitar home, said the studio had better sound. Then he stopped writing in front of me altogether. He'd come home late smelling like stage fog and whiskey eyes glazed with exhaustion, or something else I couldn't name. Long night, I'd ask, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, just interviews," he'd say, and collapse on the couch, phone still in his hand, scrolling through endless messages, fans, girls, producers, everyone wanting a piece of him. Sometimes I'd catch him humming new melodies under his breath when he thought I wasn't listening. But when I asked what he was working on, he'd smile that new distant smile. "You'll hear it when it's ready." I missed the old smile, the one that looked like it was made just for me. One night we went to a fancy dinner with label people at some rooftop place overlooking downtown, a table full of strangers talking money and streams and tours. I sat there watching him laugh with them like he'd known them forever. And I realized he hadn't looked at me once since we sat down after dessert. He finally turned and said, "Am you okay?" I smiled. "Yeah, just tired." But I wasn't tired. I was invisible, and it scared me back at the apartment. I sat on the bed, listening to the city hum below the window. His guitar was in the corner, untouched for weeks. I walked over, picked it up, strummed the first few chords of Forever Starts Here, and something about it felt different off somehow. It was the same song, but suddenly it didn't sound like us anymore. It sounded like him alone when he came home later that night. I asked him if he'd ever write another song like that for me. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "That song was our story. There'll never be another one like it." I believed him because I wanted to, but deep down something whispered, maybe that story wasn't ours to begin with. Do you think fame always changes people? Or does it just reveal who they already were? The morning after his first big TV interview, I woke up alone again. The sheets beside me, cold and untouched. Luke had already left for the studio. I could still smell his cologne faint in the air, like something half-remembered. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table scrolling through Twitter. Every post was about him, the song of the year, the voice that makes you believe in love again. I smiled at first, proud, but then I saw one comment that stuck out. Funny how the lyrics sound familiar. Didn't he play that same tune at open mic years ago? I scrolled past it, but my chest tightened. I'd been there when he first played the song, hadn't I? It was new then. It had to be that afternoon I went to the studio to surprise him. It had been weeks since I'd watched him work. Maybe I missed us more than I wanted to admit. The place smelled like coffee and cables. I followed the faint sound of guitar strings down the hallway. When I peeked through the half-open door, I saw him sitting with his producer. Mark papers scattered everywhere. Mark was laughing. "Man, I can't believe this song almost ended up in a drawer." Luke chuckled. "Yeah, guess it was meant to find the right moment." I pushed the door gently and walked in. "Hey." They both looked up. Luke smiled, but there was something tight about it. "Hey, you didn't text you were coming." "Wanted to surprise you," I said, setting down coffee. "You've been living here lately." Mark grinned. He's a perfectionist, can't get enough of that golden song of his. I laughed, but it came out softer than I meant. "Golden, huh?" I sat on the couch and looked around, notebooks open everywhere, pages of lyrics scattered across the table. I reached for one, curious, but Luke quickly slid it away. "Nothing to see yet," he said with that easy grin. "Draft stuff." "Right," I said. Even though it didn't feel right, we went home that night, quiet the way people do when something small but sharp has slipped between them. Later, when he fell asleep, I got up for water and saw his old duffel bag near the door. Half unzipped inside were scraps of paper, old notebooks, cables tangled with memories. I knelt down, touched the worn leather of one notebook, the corner bent from years of use. I smiled, thinking how many songs he must have written in it. I opened it just to peek, expecting to see doodles and half-finished lines, but instead I saw something that made my stomach twist. The first page was the song, Forever Starts Here, but the handwriting looked older, rougher, more raw, and where my name should have been. In the chorus, there was another name scribbled neatly in blue ink, Lena. If you found something like that, would you confront them immediately or wait to hear their side first? I sat there on the floor for what felt like hours, the open notebook glowing faintly under the lamp, the words staring back at me like they knew what they'd done. Lena, it wasn't written once. It was written 3 times, first in the title, then again in the chorus, then once more in the bridge where I remembered him whispering my name the first time he played it for me. I read the lyrics again just to make sure maybe I was wrong. Maybe he changed it. Maybe Lena was just a placeholder name, but no. Everything about it felt personal, the way he described her, the way the lines curved around her name like it belonged there. My chest felt tight, like I was the wrong verse in someone else's song. I closed the notebook and sat back staring at the wall. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator, the city outside, alive with sound, laughter, cars, music from a bar down the street. I felt like I was watching life happen through glass. I wanted to wake him up, shake him, ask him who she was, but the thought of hearing the answer scared me more than not knowing. He stirred on the couch, mumbled something in his sleep, and turned over his hand. Brushing the spot where I used to sleep beside him, I placed the notebook back exactly where I found it, zipped the bag shut quietly like sealing away a secret, and stood there for a long time, watching him breathe. The next morning, he woke up early again, kissed me on the cheek, said, "Love you, Em," and left before I could even respond. The door clicked shut, and suddenly I was alone with a question I didn't know how to ask. I spent the whole day replaying every moment, every line he'd ever sung to me, wondering how much of it had belonged to someone else that night. I went out to one of his shows just to see him in his element. Maybe I needed to remind myself that it didn't matter. Maybe art always starts somewhere else and ends where it's meant to. The crowd was packed, everyone shouting his name, lights flashing, phones held high when he walked on stage. I felt it again, that pull, that magic. He strummed the first chord of Forever Starts Here, and the crowd roared. My heart twisted because, even now, even with what I knew, I still loved him. When the chorus came, he looked into the crowd and smiled that familiar smile. But it didn't land on me. It drifted past me to somewhere else or someone else I couldn't see, and just like that, the song that once felt like mine didn't anymore. Would you rather know the truth and lose someone, or stay in love with the version of them you believed in? The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about her. The name felt like a ghost whispering through every room of our apartment. Lena, it echoed in my head until it didn't sound like a name anymore, just a question with no answer. Luke was gone before I woke up again. His half of the bed, cold. His mug still on the counter, coffee ring staining the tile. He'd left a note studio all day. Love you, 3 words and a heart at the end. The kind that's supposed to mean everything but suddenly felt like nothing. I opened his laptop while I was cleaning, not to snoop. I told myself just to play music. But the second I touched it, my hands hesitated. He never cared if I used it before, but lately he'd been locking the screen like it held secrets, and maybe it did when it opened. I went to his notes folder, mostly song drafts, voice memos, gig lists. I was about to close it when I saw one file buried at the bottom titled Lena Sessions. My pulse stuttered. I clicked the screen filled with old recordings, scratchy, low quality, the kind you record when you're still chasing something raw before polish, before fame. I pressed play. His voice filled the room, softer, younger, familiar, and not all at once. "Hey, Lena, this is the new bridge. Tell me what you think." My throat tightened. He started to sing and it was Forever. Starts here, word for word, only different. Slower, sadder, almost pleading. And when he said her name in the chorus, my stomach dropped. I stopped, the recording closed. The laptop stared at my reflection in the dark screen. It wasn't just her name in the notebook, it was her voice somewhere between the chords, between the years before me. Who was she? That question ate at me until I couldn't sit still. I searched her name online. Lena Austin, musician. Lena Parker, song credit. Nothing at first, then one link from an old local newspaper popped up. Open mic night, local artist, shine at Cactus Lounge, photo blurry, but I recognized him instantly. Luke, smiling, guitar in hand, and next to him a girl with bright eyes and long dark hair, her hand on his shoulder, captioned, "Duo debut, Luke Parker and Lena Hart, performing their original song, Forever Starts Here." The date hit me like a punch. 2 years before I met him. I closed the laptop and sat there staring at nothing, the truth crawling in like slow dawn. It wasn't our song, it was theirs. And all this time the world had been singing her story, while I lived inside its echo. If you found out the love that inspired something beautiful wasn't yours, could you still listen to it the same way? By the time he came home that night, I'd replayed every recording, every lyric, every lie, until my chest felt bruised from the inside out. The apartment was dark except for the yellow light spilling from the kitchen. I sat at the table, his old notebook in front of me, open to the first page, the one with her name. He walked in humming the tune that had made him famous. Keys jingling as he tossed them on the counter. When he saw me, he froze. "Hey, you're up late." "Yeah," I said quietly, couldn't sleep. He smiled, tried to shake off the tension. "I got good news. Label wants to shoot the video next week, maybe in LA." I didn't smile back. I just looked at him and said, "Who's Lena?" The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut air. His shoulders tensed. His eyes flicked to the table, then back to me. "What?" "Don't," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't pretend you didn't hear me. I found the notebook. Luke, the one with her name in the song, the one you said you wrote for me." His face went pale. That's nothing. That's old stuff from before." "Before what?" I snapped. "Before me, before us, before the truth started mattering." He rubbed the back of his neck, pacing. "Look, it's complicated. Okay, the song started years ago. I wrote it with her, but it wasn't what it became. She left. I changed it. It became ours." "Ours?" I laughed bitterly. "You changed a name that doesn't make it ours. It makes it borrowed." He sighed. "You think every song starts clean. Every artist pulls from their past. That's how it works. It doesn't mean I don't love you. But you let me believe it was mine, I whispered. You looked me in the eyes and told me you wrote it for me. And then you made me stand there night after night while the world called it our song when it never was. He stepped closer. And please, it was inspired by her, maybe, but it became about you, about us, about how you made me feel again. I shook my head. No, Luke, you can't rewrite the truth to fit your success. You can't take something that already belonged to someone else and pretend you built it from scratch. His voice cracked. You think I planned this? You think I meant to hurt you? This song changed my life. I thought maybe it could change ours too. I looked at him and saw it the boy I used to believe in, buried beneath the man fame, had sculpted into someone I didn't recognize. It did change our life, I said quietly. Just not the way you think. He tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. His hand hung there, suspended between us like a note left unresolved. For the first time, the song felt completely silent. Do you think art can still be honest if it's born from a lie? The next morning, the whole world already knew. I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop, group chats lighting up my notifications, headlines flashing his face everywhere. Was Forever Starts Here really about another woman? Fans speculate Luke Parker's hit song was written years before his current relationship. Who is Lena Hart? I sat up slowly, my chest tightening with each word. It was all out there faster than I could even process it. His fans were defending him. Others were tearing him apart, and somewhere in the middle, my name started trending too. Like I'd suddenly become part of a story I never agreed to be in. I didn't post anything, didn't say a word, just scrolled in silence until I saw the photo, the one from that old newspaper, the one I'd found online the night before. Someone had dug it up and shared it side by side with a screenshot from his music video captioned, "Same song, different girl." The comments were vicious. Some called me stupid for not knowing, others called him a liar, a fraud, a thief of love and art. I threw my phone across the bed, closed my eyes, and tried to breathe, but all I could hear was that song playing faintly from the street below. Some store still blasting it, like it hadn't been cracked open by truth. Yet around noon, he came home, sunglasses on, hoodie pulled low, his voice low. Please, we need to talk." I didn't move. "Looks like everyone's talking already." He sighed, sat across from me. "It got out somehow. Mark's handling it. We'll say the song was inspired by a past friendship. That's all people move on fast. They always do." His calmness made me angry. "A friendship? You told me it was our story, Luke. You built our whole life on it, and now you're just rewriting it for headlines? What do you want me to do?" He snapped finally. "Throw away everything I've worked for? Ruin my career?" I looked at him long enough to realize he wasn't really asking me. He was asking himself. The man who used to write love songs on our kitchen floor was gone, replaced by someone who thought truth was optional if the melody was good enough. "It's not the career that's ruined," I whispered. "It's everything else." He stood there for a second, jaw tight, eyes softening. I never meant to hurt you. You have to believe that. I wanted to. But belief doesn't erase proof, and love doesn't rewrite names in ink." When he left for another meeting, the apartment felt hollow, like the sound after music fades out and you're just left with silence and ringing ears. I sat down at his desk, opened his notebook again this time, not to cry but to understand, and somewhere between the lines, I realized something else. There were unfinished lyrics after the original song, fragments of words written in a newer hand, my name at the top. Maybe he tried to write me my own song once. Maybe he never finished it. Maybe we both didn't. If you were Emily, would you forgive him for his past? Or walk away before the music ends completely? 2 days passed and the noise only got louder. The tabloids were running full features. Now interviews with sources close to the couple fans, posting long threads dissecting every lyric of the song like it was some coded confession. I didn't even recognize my own life anymore. I'd walk past coffee shops and hear it playing and watch people hum along, smiling like they were part of something beautiful, and I wanted to scream that it wasn't beautiful. Not anymore. It was bruised and borrowed and built on someone else's ghost. The label called me once asking if I'd be open to doing a joint interview to clear the air. They said it would help control the narrative. Control the narrative, as if my heart was some marketing problem to be managed. I hung up without saying a word that night. I packed a small suitcase, just the essentials. Clothes, a book, my journal, the necklace he'd given me on his first tour. I held it in my hand for a long time before setting it down on the dresser. I couldn't take it. It felt too heavy for something so small. When he came home, I was sitting by the window, the suitcase by my feet. He looked at it, then at me, and for a moment I saw it hit him. Really hit him. "You're leaving," he said quietly. "I have to." I replied, "I can't stay in a song that was never mine." He stepped closer, his voice shaking. Please, I messed up. I should have told you everything from the start, but that doesn't change what we built." I looked up at him. "You built a song, Luke. I built my trust. That's not the same thing." He tried again. "What if I write another one for you from scratch? Something new, something real." I shook my head. "You can't write your way out of this." The silence that followed was thick and still, and then he whispered, "I love you." For the first time in weeks, I almost believed him. But love isn't always enough when truth is missing. It starts to sound like background noise. I picked up my suitcase and stood. "Maybe someday you'll write something honest and it'll hurt less. Maybe then I'll listen." He reached for me but stopped halfway and let his hand fall as I closed the door behind me. The faint hum of that same song floated through the hall, muffled, distorted like a memory trying to find its way out of a dream. Outside, the night air in Austin felt different, softer, freer. For the first time since all of it began, I felt like I could finally breathe again. If you were in Emily's place, would you have left that night or stayed to see if he could prove his love through honesty? The first few mornings felt unreal. I stayed with my friend Claire downtown in her small apartment above a flower shop where everything smelled like fresh rain and new beginnings. I kept thinking the quiet would crush me, but instead it started to comfort me. It wrapped around me like something honest. No tour schedules, no interviews, no fake smiles, just me and the sound of the city outside my window still. His voice followed me everywhere in echoes, strangers humming the song on the subway cars, playing it from open windows. It was like the universe refused to let me forget. One afternoon, I went for a walk and stopped at a park near the river. Someone was busking on a bench singing his song, but slower, softer. It sounded like heartbreak instead of hope. I listened for a while, then asked if she knew what the song was about. She smiled and said, "It's about how love always finds its way. Home, right?" I didn't answer. I just nodded and kept walking that night. I sat with my journal and finally wrote for the first time in weeks. Not about him, not about the song, but about what came after the silence. About learning to exist without being someone's muse or mistake. I wrote about how I used to think love was proof written in melodies, but now I knew it was more like rhythm. The way your heart keeps beating, even after someone stops listening. 2 weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number, and it was a link to a video. It was Luke sitting in the studio alone, guitar in hand, eyes tired and raw. He started playing something I hadn't heard before. A new song, quiet, tender, broken. In all the right places. The lyrics weren't polished, they were messy, painfully real. No metaphors, no grand lines. Just I wrote a song that wasn't mine, and lost the only truth I had. I'd trade the world to hear your silence, if it meant you'd come back. I didn't cry, but my throat ached like I wanted to. He didn't post it anywhere else. No press, no hashtags, no performance, just that one private video sent to me and no one else. I didn't reply right away. Maybe because I didn't know what to say. Maybe because some apologies don't need answers. Only time I replayed it once more before bed and realized something. Maybe this was the real song. The one he couldn't finish before the one he'd been trying to write all along, and even if it wasn't mine, it was finally honest. And maybe that was enough. Do you think his final song was redemption? Or just too late to fix what was already broken? Weeks passed and life started to hum again. Not loud, not fast, just steady. I found a small coffee shop near Claire's place. They did open mic nights every Friday. I'd sit in the back and listen. People sharing songs that weren't perfect but were theirs, honest and raw and full of fingerprints. One night Claire nudged me. "You should read something you've been writing every day." I shook my head. "I'm not a performer." "Neither were they," she said, pointing to the girl on stage trembling behind a guitar. "But she's doing it anyway." So the next week I brought my journal, my hands shaking as I stood under the warm yellow light, the crowd's small kind. Quiet? I didn't sing his song. I read mine, the one I'd written after leaving the one about rhythm and silence and truth, about how love shouldn't need to borrow words to exist. When I finished, there was no roaring applause, just soft claps and a few smiles. But it was enough because for the first time, the words felt like they belonged to me after the show. A man approached, said he was a producer for a small indie label, said my writing had a heartbeat, said he'd love to hear more. If I ever wanted to turn it into something real. I laughed, told him, maybe someday. The next morning, I got another message from Luke, just a voice note. His voice soft like he was afraid to be heard. I wanted you to know I'm taking a break from touring. I'm trying to remember why I started making music in the first place. I heard your piece from the coffee shop. Someone posted a clip. It was beautiful, you always were. I didn't respond. I just sat there smiling a little. Because for once his words didn't hurt. They healed the world. Kept spinning, fans moved on. New songs climbed charts and Forever Starts Here. Slowly faded from playlists, replaced by newer noise. But every now and then, I'd hear a faint guitar from a passing car and I'd think of him. Not with anger, not with ache, just with a kind of quiet understanding. Some loves aren't meant to last. They're meant to teach. And his song had taught me that truth was the only melody that stayed in tune. Months later, I finally performed my own song, live, the one I'd written. Start to finish, no borrowed words. No ghosts, just me and my story. When I sang the final line, I felt it echo through the room. I found my voice between the lies and the silence. And in that moment, I realized something simple but powerful. He might have written the song that made the world fall in love, but I was the one who finally learned how to write my own. Do you think Emily should ever forgive him? Or let her story stay beautifully unfinished?